Welcome back. This is part 5 of my chat with James Blair, whose full introduction, by the way, can be heard at the beginning of part 1. This time we're looking at organisational culture, how to get people en masse to change their behaviour. As usual, James has some terrific insights. How does that spread over into an organisational thing? Because from an individual point of view, it's interesting because for me, I find that on one level, if everybody's doing it, on one level, it might be easier because you're kind of just following suit. We're all in this together. And when someone else remembers when I've forgotten, I can get up and follow them, and vice versa. I'll remember, sometimes they'll forget. So there are, I imagine, some benefits. But from the point of view of people who are trying to set or establish or even maintain an organizational culture, particularly focused on health and well-being, how do you do that when it's remote? Where do you start?
You've asked essentially what is the question of Pavelka's business.
I thought you'd be a good guy to ask. Yeah.
Organizational change is actually it's turning an oil tanker. It's even in a small business, even if you have like less than 10 employees, each of those people has an ingrained, unspoken, unwritten manner of working. They have their own routines, and those kind of, in a really sort of messy, tangled way, mesh in with the people they work with. So you get instances where back in the office, you would have a really particular shorthand with different members of your organization. You would contact people at sort of similar times of day. You'd be able to look at them and go, now is not the time to bring this up with them. And you'd even have like your own terms and stuff that don't exist organization wide. So regardless of the size of organization, instituting cultural change can be a really difficult thing. And what we found and what we aim to do is with a top-down and bottom-up approach. Because in our work with organizations, we've discovered that if you just go top-down, you get all the news, you get all the communications, you get the buy-in from leaders, you get the lovely statements from them saying, this is brilliant, everyone needs to do it. But what happens at the bottom is people have seen these initiatives come and go 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And that is the nod of someone that's worked in education. and what everybody does is they just go, I am going to sit this out and it is just going to blow right on by.
Yeah. Wait for the next one to roll in. It'll be something else next week. I'll just put it on a back burner. Yeah.
Absolutely.
No,
so if you just go top down, whilst you've got the buy-in of all of the leaders, you never reach the people you never reach like the worker bees, as it were, which is a horrible term because worker bees' lives are awful. So we'll go for team members. But if you think, oh right, we'll start with the core staff. We'll start with the people doing the day to day. Well, that doesn't quite work either, because you get like this small, like really devoted, hardworking core of people who are doing everything you want and more because they see the benefit on a day-to-day basis. But because you don't have the leadership, you never get the communications, you never get the shout outs in like events and meetings. So it never grows beyond that core of people that you have, or it grows too slowly to withstand the next big initiative that comes in. So actually there's a combination of the two. What you need, like up front, you need your leadership to be, this is the way we'd like things to be. And then like a little bit of vulnerability and a little bit of honesty, thinking about that connection again. So they're saying, this is my situation, this is my story. And I think if we do X, Y, Z, we will see positive changes in these areas. This will be the benefit to you. So establish a need and establish the benefit for individuals. But then you also want to recruit that team. So with Pavelka, we call them pioneers. We give them access to like merchandise. We've got like an open line of communication to them all the time. Like, you want to know something about health and well-being, you want ideas, just get in touch with us. Right. And we then sort of try to make them visible persons. So even at the basic level of having a Pavelka water bottle, so someone looks at it, never heard of the company. It's like, what the hell is that about? They sort of turn around and go, oh, my water bottle. Well, let me tell you. But
Nice.
then through their behavior, through their actions. So people that are healthy and happy and that are motivated and have the right mindset, they shine. They sort of bring a bounce and enthusiasm to what they're doing that you don't necessarily see from the people dragging their feet because they have a million worries like weighing on them. And other people will start to buy in. They'll be like, well, how initially they might look at that person and go, oh my God, if they talk about their triathlon one more time, I'm going to set myself on fire. But if the conversations with those people are sort of open, vulnerable, and honest, what you find is people take away from that, oh, maybe like I could look at making this tiny little change. I could look at improving this aspect of my life. And then that sort of grows like gossip does, the way gossip does through a company. And you pair that with the positive messages from leadership, and then suddenly you start getting the events, you start getting the communications up and down, you start getting the support and the routines you want to put in place come pretty quickly after that.
That's awesome. It makes perfect sense. When you say it, it seems so obvious. Do you know what I mean? When you kind of go, oh yeah, we should do that. We'll do that, obviously. But it's why do people struggle? Because obviously, I mean, you guys do this for a living. You go into organizations and you make this stuff happen. Why can you do it and they can't? What's the barrier?
The barriers are like intensely individual, really. For most organizations looking at that level, the barrier is time and the barrier is resources. When I say resources, I don't necessarily mean money, but I mean sort of those resources could be intellectual, they could be in terms of like merchandise, they could be in terms of experience. So what you have is everybody in that company desperately wants everyone to be happy and healthy. Research has shown for like 200 years that if people are happy and people are not sick, they will get more work done. Like that is an absolute, like it's carved on the tablets with the 10 Commandments. But what you tend to find is if you don't have the time and you don't have those resources that I was talking about, nobody can break away from their day to day and set stuff in place. If you have a member of staff that is able to go, hey, don't worry, this week I'll run a step challenge, you start thinking to yourself, shouldn't they be doing some work? And so what we're able to do as an outside organization is we're able to come in and say, look, the logistics, the communications, we will draft the posters, like we will run the thing, we will take all of the help desk queries and run the IT and stuff like that. If people have questions, we've got experts, we've got people with the knowledge that can help you out with that. So we bring those resources, and I would never want to talk down like the expertise or the care of the partners we work with, the partner organizations, because they've brought us in because they see a need and they want things to be better. It isn't a case of them saying we can't do this. It's a case of them saying, let's make it happen. And because we've got the time and we've got the knowledge and we've run these sorts of things before, we're very quickly able to like delve into our box of tricks and say, hey, would you guys like a big competition company-wide? Here's some emails, here's some posters, or like, hey, would you guys like a website where people can access articles and podcasts and stuff like that? Or we're now branching into programs. So the idea being that businesses might not want that deeper relationship. They might want to be able to go, hey, all of our staff, are you worried about weight loss, time management, sleep, blah, 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 blah. Go to this website and download whatever you need from it. Like do a few questionnaires, like we're moving into that now. But it's that idea of the time and the resources. Because it's our job, we've got those things where an organization might not necessarily have them.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I mean, that change that you mentioned at the end there, is that in response to COVID? I mean, what have you had to adapt for this new not normal, we were steering clear of that word, but this new time?
New time. I like that, particularly the emphasis on the word time. Yeah, I personally, so my role has changed significantly as things have sort of gone on. I've moved from like what used to be very standard project management. So we would get a client, I would discuss with them their needs, their wants, what their sort of pressure points in terms of health and well-being were. And then I would put in place all those events and competitions and stuff. What we're looking at now is designing more on demand stuff, because we can't necessarily rock up to your office and have like a big event with the guest speakers, which is a shame because our founders, Jesse and Jill, are fantastic speakers. But this is like, the world is what it is right now. So we're trying to move to as close to an on-demand model as possible. So your staff are struggling with hydration, or everybody gets tired and gets headaches in the afternoon. Well, we've got something for that. It's just 2 clicks away, off you go. And then what we were also looking at is the idea of like gamified, personalized experiences. It wasn't so much a reaction to COVID as something we always wanted to be doing, but so the way we've sort of put a lens over our offering has brought that into the light. So what we're looking to do is, we want to say one size fits one. Your own personal journey with health is your own. And just because, like, to go back to the example we gave there, just because 80% of a company filled out a questionnaire and said, I'm not sleeping very well at night, doesn't mean that you are. So like having that menu of options where everybody is able to say, right, I'm concerned about my diet, or I'm concerned about sort of my mental health, and somebody saying, do you know what, I don't really know what any of this 4 elements stuff is about, just teach me a little about that. And we can all get what we want from it, rather than, well, like the counterpoint is what we mentioned earlier, that idea of a top down, hey guys, we're doing a team building day, like get ready to make Eiffel Towers out of old newspapers. Whereas you're at the back of the room, like saying to someone else, God, we could have really done with X instead. Like we'd like everybody to be able to choose what X is for them.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, I suppose that is an upshot, isn't it, of this, of shifting to a remote direction, is that we can now have that flexibility. It's something, you can now cherry pick what you want and tailor it to yourself and that kind of thing. So every cloud, I guess.
Indeed, yeah. Every big grey stormy cloud.
That was part 5, and for the 6th and final part of this interview with James, we explore the importance of showing vulnerability in the workplace, particularly for leaders and managers. It's really uncomfortable, but the benefits are actually huge. Join us for that, and in the meantime, if you haven't done it already, please do hit subscribe.